Alright everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today I have another video that seems to be like it's becoming a weekly type of video in a series type thing. It's the way too early 2025 AFL trades. Again, I think this is like the third or fourth week in a row I've done one of these videos, and you guys continue to smash it, and you guys seem to really like them. So I'm very, very happy to get back into it and talk about some more trade news. Again, for those of you who may be questioning why my voice might sound a tiny bit different throughout this video, and I don't know, you're probably going to hear me like voice crack a couple times. It's not because I'm going through puberty. It's because I actually have a really bad throat infection, which I actually get quite regularly. We really don't know why, but I consistently get throat infections. I had one nearly like every month and a half last year. Again, this like in the last so forth, it's been like once every 3 months. Again, we don't really know why. The doctors keep saying it's because all my allergies are so bad, it just contributes to it. While my friends just think I legitimately suck too much doodle, which is kind of mean considering I'm not even gay, but they still think I suck too much doodle. So I guess it is what it is. You guys can form your own opinions in the comment section down below. But again, moving on from my friends' opinions versus my doctor's opinion, let's talk about some more AFL trade news today. Again, one of the big ones I want to talk about is there's been a lot more Harley Reid news as of late, and considering Harley Reid's name consistently gets brought up like all the time, I feel like we'll get him started off first because he's no real big surprise. But there is a report right now that does say that Melbourne has joined a long list of clubs that are attempting to lure Harley Reid back to Victoria, and that's being reported by Callum Toomey. Reid is out of contract in 2026 and is set to attract some of the most lucrative offers in AFL history. Again, there is another Harley Reid news report to talk about as well, but I want to start off with the Melbourne Demons ones, because I actually, and I've spoken about this on the channel before, I believe the Melbourne Demons right now have arguably the most underrated list and most underrated future in the game. Again, they're not doing the traditional rebuild that you see so many teams do. Again, I think they're trying to do a little bit of what Sydney and Geelong have done for so many years, to a lesser extent, but still try it, and that's do a rebuild on the run. And I have absolutely loved what they have done, especially with the most recent draft. Again, getting Harvey Langford at, I think it was pick 6, and Xavier Lindsay was like pick 10 or something like that, which again, a lot of people kind of eyebrows were raised on them. I have spoken on the channel before. I thought Xavier Lindsay was going to be a really good player, but he had a lot of injury issues. Again, Harvey Langford as well. Some people didn't think he was going to be as good as he's ranked, but both of those guys have probably been 2 top 5 rookies this year. Again, they've got a ton of other good players on top of that are young, like Caleb Winstar as well. So they're really heading towards the right direction. Again, they don't have their first round pick this year, but I think that was on intention because, as we know, there are reports that Petrarca is going to be getting moved for a first round pick. We know that Clayton Oliver could be still getting moved. They probably won't get a first out of him in today's day, especially with his contract and all that type of stuff. Again, Cozzy Pickett is supposed to be getting moved. I think his value is going to be at least 1 or 2 first round picks. They're going to get a lot of capital back, and I think they're going to be really trying to go for a guy like, Harley Reid. I think they're going to talk to Harley Reid and be like, look, we may be losing most likely Petrarca and Clayton Oliver. We don't know what's going on with that yet, right? The future will sort itself out. Whether they stay or whether they go, we not only have a ton of great young players, like, of course, Langford and like Lindsay and Winstar, but we've also got a lot of really elite veteran players who are way better than any of the veteran players you've got at West Coast right now in Viney, Gawn, May, Lever, still on the team, that we think can really guide you into the future and help shift you into being a really elite player and help you in this culture. Again, I also think Melbourne are going to have an extreme amount of salary cap coming up pretty soon. Again, I think they're probably going to have to pay a lot of Petrarca and Oliver's contracts, especially if Petrarca requests the trade to Collingwood, which I think we all see is probably coming. Again, if they want to get a first round pick out of Collingwood, which will be probably their future first and maybe like a second this year or something like that. If you want to get a lot out of Petrarca, you're going to have to pay probably at least half or more of his contract. And considering Collingwood have no cap, that's probably what you're going to have to do. And I don't think Melbourne are going to be scared to do that at all. I think they'll be happy to do that. Again, we know that's what's going to happen. That's every single report, is that these players are going to get moved most likely. Melbourne have to pay contracts, especially if they want to get good picks. It's how it is. And if they do that as well, they're still going to free up a fair bit of salary cap to go out for a guy like Harley Reid, which I think would be a really good addition to the Melbourne Demons team and continue to help their rebuild on the run that they're, of course, doing. Again, another team that's really interested in Harley Reid, who I probably think will be the favourite at this point, is the Richmond Tigers, with Cal Toomey reporting on it multiple times, and him as, even going as further on to say that Cal Toomey believes he would trade pick 2 and 3 for Harley Reid. He said, I would do that deal in a heartbeat. Again, I think every AFL fan's consensus opinion and every expert's opinion is that Harley Reid is worth 2 top 5 picks. Everyone knows that, right? Again, I made a video recently, though, talking about that, and I had a lot of West Coast fans coming into my comment section down below saying he's worth 3 first-round picks. Again, there is a probably 1% chance that happens. I'm not saying it won't, but considering every expert and every AFL fan on their dad who's not a West Coast fan thinks the 2 top 5 picks should probably get it done, this is where we are sitting. Again, the only time I think a player has ever been traded for like 3 first-round picks was Tim Kelly, if I remember right. And as we know, that was a terrible trade which sunk West Coast for many years. You just can't do 3 first-round picks, especially if you're a team like Richmond, when that could be picks 2 and 3 right now, and then like pick 4 next year. No way. That's never going to ever happen. So, again, I like that Cal Toomey report that it would be the 2 top 5 picks. If Richmond do decide to go and get him, again, I still think he would be perfect for Richmond. In my opinion, I would still probably take the 2 top 5 picks to the draft and look at Harley Reid next year. But as we know, it does look like Harley Reid is pushing for an exit this year. But yeah, if I was Richmond, I just don't know if I'd do that deal. I'd let a team like Essendon do it, who seem to be really, really pushing for Harley Reid at this point. And they're going to have the 2 top 10 picks this year. It looks like their own pick and Melbourne's pick. And if you're going to get 3 first-round picks out of any team, it could be them. They could give up their 2 firsts this year and maybe next year. But a team like Richmond, whose first-round pick is going to be super high, it's just not going to happen in my opinion. So I can't see that happening at all. Again, a ton of more news and information outside of Harley Reid, though, to really go over here. Again, some stuff to do with Miles Bergman, which is a really weird one because I think everyone has been saying the Saints would be the leading team for Miles Bergman for quite a while. Again, he will be a free agent and someone that Port Adelaide are going to be in desperate need to try and re-sign, especially with them losing Dan Houston in the previous last, off-season. They're going to be really wanting to push for a guy like Miles Bergman to stay on the team. Again, it is being reported as we speak right now that the Port Adelaide Football Club have offered him a 7-year deal, which is being reported by Tom Morris. Again, I think that is a massive deal. I think that is the type of deal that St Kilda will personally offer him. We know St Kilda have offered, I think they offered Finn Callaghan like 10 years. Like, Jesus Christ, you might as well sign away your life for a 10-year contract. Like, that is absolutely crazy. I mean, that is insane. Patrick Mahomes, he did like a 10-year contract, but I mean, outside of him sounding like Kermit the Frog, Patrick Mahomes is pretty well damn goated, and I think he's on a little bit of a different aspect to what Finn Callaghan probably was. So 10 years is massive, but we know Saints are looking to, maybe do that. Again, we've seen that they're going to offer Tom De Koning a big 7-year deal as well, which I heard is going to be on about 1.5 to 1.7 million a year, which dwarfs Carlton's offer of it's like 7 years, 7 mil. So you think Tom De Koning's decision will probably be made there. But it is really interesting because in saying that St Kilda are interested in him, as well as Port offering the 7 years, a big report has come out recently that does say that Carlton have shown interest in Port Adelaide's Miles Bergman as well. This is all being reported by Cal Toomey. Now, I don't know how this would work because it's a really weird situation right now with Carlton. They're in a weird spot. It's hard to know where Carlton is. Again, at the time of making this video right now, they're not in the 8. But in saying that, a couple of weeks ago, they were like 15th, and we thought all hope was lost, and they were going to have to blow it up like, you know, the Richmond Tigers last season or something. I don't really know. No one probably actually thought that, but hope did kind of seem lost, and they've made a massive comeback. They have. Credit to them, right? They've made a massive comeback. The issue is how we look at it next season, right? Because they're in a weird spot with who they've got signed and who they don't. Again, as we know, their top-ended players right now are tied up to massive deals. Like, Harry Mackay is literally got a couple years left, I believe, on like over $1 million a year. And one of my good mates is a Carlton fan. And recently when I was in Adelaide and we were watching the footy and Harry Mackay did that kick that went like out on the full 20 meters into the side row, he looked at me to like the Mike Wazowski meme and said, what are we going to do with this guy, man? Like, he's on a massive deal. I think Kerno's on over $1 million a year. Wiedering would be on something similar. Cripps is obviously on well over $1 million a year. You got players like Sam Walsh and whatnot who are tied to big contracts. Adam Chera's on a massive contract as well. But then you got players who are uncontracted who are also going to be looking for pretty decent money. But it's going to be really hard on when and who they sign, because right now they're not in the 8. They're not in the 8. And if you keep this same team and same foundation and they don't even have their first round pick, for the next couple of years, it could just be all the same. With no change, it could legitimately just be all the same for Carlton, which is not what they want at all. Again, Silvani is out of contract. He has been extremely impressive and one of their best players all year. And as we know, reports are saying he's commanding at least a 3-year deal out of Carlton. And St Kilda are reportedly massively interested in him. And his literal dad is the general manager, list manager of St Kilda. So that's going to be a massive draw. You also got DeConing, who's getting an offer that I just don't see how he can refuse to go to St Kilda. I just don't think there's any way he can not pick up that deal. Again, I know playing for Carlton is way better than playing for St Kilda with the crowds, the fans, the respect, the engagement, all of the above. But a deal that's going to be like 7 mil from Carlton versus like, it's going to be probably 13 mil from St Kilda. How do you decline that? You just can't. So they will lose him. I don't not think they'll lose Silvani, but I think that will start to ramp up because, as we know, they're interested. If they lose all these players, it does free up a little bit of salary cap, because at the end of the day, that $1 million you're going to pay for DeConing, you're not going to be paying him anymore. Silvani, you won't be paying him whatever you were going to be offering him if he does decide to go to St Kilda. Again, I still think he'll stay, but if he does decide to go, this does mean you are opening up opportunities to go for another player. And I think they could really use a halfback on this team. Like, really, really, really use a halfback. Because Doherty, as we know, I think it will be his last year. Sard is not the player I think he used to be. They've played Adam Chera a lot off halfback because they've just literally had no one there anymore. If they were to go and sign a guy like Miles Bergman, that would actually free up Chera to move back into that midfield. And that would mean they would get their original midfield plans back up for this year. Again, they went into 2025 really wanting to change their midfield because it was labelled as one-dimensional and every player was the same in there, and it just wasn't going to work in finals. So they decided to trade Matt Kennedy, bring in a different player like Jagger Smith, and they were going to get Adam Chera back from injury, who's a great ball user, into that midfield. But they ended up just trading Kennedy. Smith unfortunately did his ACL, so touch wood he comes back better next year. And Chera's had to go to half back for a lot of games. So it could be the situation where maybe next year, if they were able to get a Miles Bergman, they could completely change that And you now have a situation where you have Chera going back in that midfield and Jagger Smith going into it. And all of a sudden their team changes like that. Again, not having De Koning it's going to suck. It's going to be terrible for him. But Pitnet should still be serviceable enough where you could be still looking at a positive situation of, okay, we lose De Koning, but we've just gained Chera and Jagger Smith in that midfield and now Miles Bergman off half-back. Again, I think Miles Bergman, a 7-year deal from Port Adelaide is a lot. I expect him to sign up on that. I also think the St Kilda offer will probably be more than what Carlton are going to offer. Just because if Carlton, look, they lose De Koning, if they lose Silvani, whatever it is, right, they're going to free up over $1 million a year probably, but they're already scraping by on the salary cap, and next year might be a reset year for them. We really don't know. It's so early to tell. That's why this video is called the way too early AFL trades. But in saying that, I still think St Kilda are going to offer Miles Bergman a massive deal, and it could be on par with Port Adelaide's. And if Miles Bergman sees St Kilda sign, of course, De Koning and Silvani, he could very well look to go there as well. And I mean, right now St Kilda have an infinite salary cap glitch. They're not paying anyone. They're legitimately not paying anyone at all. No one on St Kilda is getting paid like big bucks. Like any of the players who were getting paid the big bucks, like Brad Hill, I would imagine those contracts are pretty close to ending. If not, they're probably going to be ending in like a year or so, right? They're really not paying anyone, and that's why they're interested in Warple as well. That's why there's even been some little rumors out there they might be looking at Harley Reid. All of the above, man. So that's going to be really interesting to see. Again, I don't know what's going to go on with a lot of these situations. It is legitimately all guesswork right now, and I'm really curious. Again, other than that, there's not a whole lot. There's some more stuff to do with Jamarra Ugle-Hagan, and Kane Cornes also believing St Kilda will be the perfect team for him to go to. So yeah, Saints could be like literally signing like 4 guys in this off season. There's also talk that Collingwood will be interested in Jamarra. Sydney will be interested in Jamarra. There'll be a lot of different teams interested in him. So that'll be really interesting to see how that goes. Again, I'd very much like to hear all of your thoughts and opinions on this in the comment section down below. What do you guys think about, a lot of the AFL trade rumors and news that I've talked about in today's video? Do you guys think any of them will happen, or do you guys think most of them won't? Again, I'd very much like to hear your thoughts and opinions down below. Subscribe to the channel for all latest sports content news. My gaming channel, which will be getting linked in the description down below. And I guess I'll be seeing you guys next time. Goodbye.